制啊，
哦，对，
有
对，机制，
道理，
我也是这样干，有
有道理，
道理。
有道理，有道理。对对对，确实。Vera，我已经在那个 Twitter Space 了，
好，
然后
那
我看到你
我把
们是
我
co-host，我
的，
现在是 listener。
那我就是把我的这个手机连上我的耳机。
Thanks for coming, everyone. So I know it's very early Saturday, so thanks everyone for coming to our event again. We're Robinland, a real estate tokenization platform that is aimed at bridging the gap between liquidity in crypto or other parts of the world, such as in Asia, and high quality real estate assets in the US. And actually, very soon we're going to have a private sales. So please do come to our website, subscribe to our different social media, and stay in the loop. All right. So for today, our event is actually about our role as women in the entrepreneurship space. So as we all know, March 8th is the International Women's Day. And to celebrate that in the US, we actually have a whole month called Women's History Month. And while we're celebrating a lot of the historical figure, we also want to be looking forward at women's role in our society. And I do think that as entrepreneurs, we're actually playing a very important role and becoming more and more central in the ecosystem. So today we're really glad to have actually three, so including myself, three female entrepreneurs today in the event. Really glad and thanks so much for coming. So before further ado, I want to give the chance for our guests to introduce themselves. And later on, we'll have a couple of questions about your path into entrepreneurship, your strengths and weaknesses as female in this field, so on and so forth. So for now, really what we want to do is to get a little bit to know about you and also your project. All right. So without a specific order, what about Larissa to start with?
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you so much for having me today. Hello everyone. My name is Larissa, and in Chinese name actually Lengjing. Uh, I'm the founder of the creative studio called Knowing Studio, based in the UK, and the UK lead of a voice and organization for domestic violence that specialize in helping the Asian woman community. And I'm also a creative director of the Web3 security company called Naya AI. Previous name is called Pang No More. Well, Pang No More, no more. Where I'm in charge of the branding and the product design. Additionally, I'm also the co-founder of Missverse, a world's first NFT project that's in crypto art to record female history. Um, Before I go into my own business and doing my own projects, I work for the British Museum and Christie's. I also publish a book called Invisible Faces, which discuss the issues of AI bias in film industry and its impact for the female actors' careers and gender equalities for the future generations. Overall, I'm all in design and creative industry, and I'm into using the design power to helping the founders and companies with an Asian background established the company or firm and trying to change people's perspective through the design. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool actually. So I would say like even though I also wear different hats, but one thing that I don't know a lot about or know nothing about is arts design. And for example, more on the metaverse NFT side. So I do think that there's a lot of things that I'll learn from you either through today's event or going forward. Really cool project. And thanks so much for the intro. All right.
Thank
So
you.
now what about Sally?
Hey, yeah, thanks for inviting. And yeah, really exciting project Larissa's doing. So my name's Sally. Three keywords that I can introduce about myself. So fintech, entrepreneur, and influencer. So fintech related, my background's more on the finance and financial computing. After my graduation, I started working in investment banking and then also on the fintech unit accounts. And after that, I'm just thinking of like Web3 is more like a challenger to fintech companies. So start working on Web3. In terms of entrepreneurs, so I got a company which is more educational related on fintech. So it's a fintech community. Moving on, also a founder of a Web3 project, Rabbit Go. So this is like a growth hacker solution, providing both learn to earn solution for Web3 companies and individuals. It is in the progress of launching. And moving on, I'm also an influencer in the market on Web3 related and fintech related topic. Very interesting fact is that our followers are like 80% or 90% of followers are females. And compared to other kind of influencers, I see super supportive community in my own community. And this kind of welcoming environment also help me grow a lot. Yeah, so that's pretty much a quick intro about myself.
Wow, that's really amazing. And it's great to see that 80% of your follower and audience are female. It's really hard to find a situation like that, especially in startup or in Silicon Valley, where we see overwhelmingly it's mostly always male, especially when you go upper and upper. This is definitely something we can talk about today as well, but really glad and really excited to see all the progress. All right, so for myself, so I was first a PhD in economics at Stanford when I was studying housing and real estate. So housing has always been an asset class that really attracts me because it's a combination of consumption and investment, which brings about a lot of inefficiencies. So I wrote a dissertation about how to essentially fractionize this piece of asset such that people can trade it with small p's, bring liquidity into the market, at the same time allows owner to essentially hedge out the risk. So after graduation, I went into Google as a data scientist, but I never forgot about this really interesting idea. And around pandemic time, I actually came across two of my co-founders, Venus, who is also a female and have worked in real estate for 6 years. with lots of experience, and Yuntao, my CTO, not a female this time, who worked in Google for 6 years. And at that time, we realized that the three of us really have all of the expertise to bring this idea to fruition, which is tokenizing high quality real estate debt, such that individual investors, either retail or larger accounts, can access fixed passive income in a very relaxed way. So basically, it's like invest and forget about it to help with building wealth. So that's the time that we started the startup. That's roughly September 2021. And then since then, I've been essentially focused on the project. And so now we, in terms of the company, we have around like 20 people. We have raised 2 rounds of fundraising. And we're actively hosting these events to promote, entrepreneurship or female entrepreneurship in crypto, in Web3, so on and so forth. All right, so that's a very high-level introduction of the three of us. So you can already see we have a panel from all different sorts of angle, which makes today's discussion really interesting. So first off, just a very high level, I'm curious, like, why do you think more and more female are choosing to start their own business or becoming executives, in a startup or in, big tech company or other large companies? And how can women choose the right direction for their own business? And you can also, in this process, talk about how did you start your entrepreneurship journey, to shed light on what do you think about this question. All right. So I guess same process, same order. What about Larissa? What do you think?
Okay, so actually, this is a really big topic, and you're actually asking the 3 questions. So I'm trying to break it down a little bit. So I think firstly, when I know about the questions, I think it's like too many people will asking the men about this question, like why the women are becoming more entrepreneur, or you want to have really higher positions whatever in the industries. I think it's considered like the normal people will think this is the option that the men will usually do, but women are not, because there is a lot a question be asking, like if you're in a higher positions, people are asking how you balance your family and your work. I think this is like the normal question that the people will asking for the females. So I think this is also reflect the other it's not like the other, it's like reflects the facts that the people will normally think the females are sacrifice their careers, they will more stay at home, and this is also the history problems that a lot females actually taking care about the child, etc. etc. But I think now the society become more open, and it's more open rules positions for females. They can fight for their careers and they can start their own business. And I don't know. I don't know how many people is actually knowing about like the WeChat business. Is actually a lot like females, and they stay at home, they're taking care of the kids, but they start their small business. I think it's become like a more the trending things that happen. The females think, okay, even I'm stay at home and taking care of kids, I also can start my own business. And start your own business means that you can have a more flexible time to balance your work and careers. I think this is why like a lot, maybe one of the major issues that the female actually start more to doing their own business. What Sally think about? We go with the 3 questions. I think we will do first one, and then we go.
Make a conversation on this. This is really good stuff. Yeah, I really like your points that more and more female start business on like WeChat shops, and this is really good trend. Because when I first heard about this question, because you talk about being executive in the company or doing the business, I would think about like whether this kind of business is good or bad for female, or even for male as well. the question I would think about it is like whether it bring a good option for people apart from their daily jobs. Because to me, setting up business is more like another perspective of understanding the words, how it operates, and also another aspect of making money, of course. So have like yeah, of course, like have a business ownership is pretty good for recently females. Because there are more options, like doing smaller business and doing business online. Because if we're doing things on the traditional way, there are loads of resources that are still owned by males, I would say. I heard a story before that I asked one of my male friends who is also a founder, and I asked like how they get the business partnerships with other people, like especially males. And he said like they literally go to some club housing where normally there's no female and the services are provided by females. And then based on that, they just doing the business naturally. And this kind of resource are actually blocked for the females. But luckily, like I can see nowadays, of course, from different culture background and also from the different technology, there's more opportunities and less barriers for females to enter in this market. And I also see some data from American Express that there's, I think there's over 3,000% increase since like 40 years ago that there are more females start their business. So this is, I think, pretty good thing for females, and the trend is still going up. And the data also shows that there's like over 40% of females nowadays start being a business ownership. So I think there are some good signs, and also becomes a culture, the trend, which allow more females to do business themselves.
Yeah, I think these are actually super interesting. I think first, as Larissa said, the fact that we're asking this question but never asked why would men become executives or startup founders is because it used to be the case that that's the norm. So it's actually a good thing that we are seeing more and more female doing this. And I think Sally, you also mentioned a very good point about having different options and different opportunities. And this made me start thinking about when we say business, there could be a lot of different types of business. For example, we know like Dong Mingzhu, for example, and Lao Ganma. These are all very famous female entrepreneurs, especially from China. And at that time, they didn't have a choice, and that's the reason why they did what they did. For example, for Lao Ganma per se, was because she was the only one in the family at that time because her husband passed away and had to support her family and ended up being extremely successful. But nowadays, what I'm seeing is a lot of females are proactively choosing this path. And it's about something they're passionate about, not because they had to earn a living or they're forced to do it, so on and so forth, or that they're the only one left. But rather, entrepreneurship is something that we're passionate about. And even though I have all of the other options, say staying in a big tech company, I choose to do this, even though it's very risky. There things might not pan out, but if I don't do this on my deathbed, I'll regret about it. So I'm already seeing, number one, the total number or total fraction of female who became business owners or business leaders are increasing. And also among them, the fractions that are actively, practically choosing this path, and the more exciting ones are also increasing. So these are, I think really great trends, and we're all part of this journey. So both very proud and very excited about being here. So I think this indeed is a very great opening to today's event. And as we sort of a little bit talked about, already alluded to the question, like there might be things that are hard about it, because as Sally said, as a male entrepreneur, there are certain clubs that you go to that are all male, but only the waitress are female for you to find your business partner, so on and so forth. And this might be just a tip of an iceberg about how this industry traditionally was shaped in a way that's not so friendly to women or made it hard for women. So I'm curious, throughout your path of being an entrepreneur, have you encountered any difficulty because you're a female, and why is that? What kind of problems do female entrepreneurs usually face? Is it about balancing families, or is it externally about the perception of female entrepreneurship? And have you encountered difficulty finding business partners or finding clients or managing the team and getting sort of recognized by your employees? Any other sorts of problems and how you fight against that, encounter that, and solve that?
I think all the like as a whole, whatever is men or women, they face the same difficult challenge when you are doing your own business. But female, it's actually have more additional situations. For example, like a lot of investors, they actually don't want to, or they are no intent to invest the female entrepreneurs because whatever the lack of the knowledge about how the yield return about invest the female actually higher than the man, or they have the stereotypes thinking you'll probably drop your business because you will come back to go back to your family, or etc. etc. I think this is the a lot like gender bias and stereotypes in the industry, and then I also as you mentioned, of course, a lot of people they are not thinking about when they will say like if you standing with your co-founders and your co-founder is actually a man, the people will more intend your assistants about of your co-founders or your secretaries. This kind of things is also actually happens, and the people are no, and also because in the entire industry, like for example, in the creative and design industry, the many people are thinking like, the females are a lot of females become artists or designers, but maybe most people don't know there's less than 1% creative agency are found by females around the world. So actually, the more creative and design industries too um, have a lot like men's in this industry. So there's also like a female perspective about you aesthetic taste. The people probably in the industry were against you, or they are no thinking you are doing like normal ways. So this is also the problem in the industry, because they have whatever you call is male gaze, or their stereotypes, or their perspective about art, or they were thinking you need to follow the rules that they established. You can't go further away, or you can't like too obvious have your own styles, or they tend to judge in your work. This is also always happens. I'm not sure about the other industries, but in the arts and designs, this happen a lot.
Yeah,
Art
thanks a
and
lot.
design, may sounds have more bias on this. I have quite interesting perspective because I normally don't take myself as a female when I'm doing something, or not focus too much on my gender when I'm doing something. Even when I was working in the banking or fintech or start working on Web3. So when I encounter some difficulties, I would take this as like a difficulties for a normal startup owner or a founder, and start thinking about like what's the reason. And when I first heard about this question, I definitely know there are some areas that females get some disadvantages, like even from facial perspective, we got Asia secrets looks young, and people may think, are you too young or not that experienced on stuffs? But on the other hand, I know, like for example, raising fund, doing marketing, building team, it's the problem that's encountered by all the founders. And every time when I see that, I think this is also something. If there's audience here, I would suggest like it can be the reason because you're female, but also it can be the reason for all the founders. So I normally would think about like what's the problem and what is the core issue that stop you from getting there, and then based on that, to solve the problem accordingly. Yeah. So because last week I was in East Denver, I met different founders and also different people working in this industry. I didn't see at least I didn't feel that I have a strong bias because I'm a female, even I'm an Asian female. I still feel like I get respect from people from different countries, and also maybe because of we are in Web3, so the most of the time I can have the chance to hide my personalities, hide my all my backgrounds. So there are also cases like people just thinking I'm a male based on my like profile picture, and they didn't set too much expectations on that. I think that is maybe also I choose this industry in Web3 because I know still like male are dominate this industry at current time, but still like female get more chance. And if I'm ignorant about my gender, I still quite happy with the path I'm getting on.
Yeah, that's actually some really cool, interesting perspective. I think what I heard was that, in fact, as female entrepreneurs, sometimes we didn't think of us as females because we're more used to the entrepreneur label that we didn't think too hard about our gender. And nowadays, especially in Web3 and also in Silicon Valley, it's actually more and more common to have female as founders. And so we less and less felt that a problem is specific to being female, but it's more about being entrepreneur or this, problem being hard. And I think there's also the internal and external factor. So from internally, if we, instead of looking at a problem as, oh, it's hard because I'm a female, but rather it's a hard problem, then it helps us to, solve it more easily as well. And from an external perspective, when we encounter questions or, maybe some adversity from external factors that is assuming that we're a female, I think collectively we can also try to oppose that. So one example is, so one of the VCs that invested in us once, met me later on in person and basically asked the question, just to check, you don't have any plan to have kids anytime soon, right? And that's a weird question, right? Because in principle, it should not be relevant. Like for number one, like it should not be relevant because people have ability to balance, family and work nowadays, right? Number two is that, it should not be the case that they ask this question to female, but not to males, because we in principle are assumed to have, basically, equal split of house chores anyways. So I think when we do encounter this kind of questioning, we collectively can stand up and maybe ask the counter question, which is, I don't think that's relevant, or that's not a problem because of my gender. And there are also similar cases, even in, for example, sometimes big tech companies, which is when female are being more assertive, they are perceived as more adverse than males. And the funny thing is, because people are very used to males being very assertive or aggressive, that when they're doing that, people just think, oh, it's normal because males should act that way. And when females do this, either in business setting or personally, people will feel very weird about it and feel like, oh, this female is being like so aggressive. But that should not be the case, because we are really just being assertive for the issue, the problem, and it should not be attached to, or people's perspective should not change because of her gender. So I do think that implicit bias like that still exists, even though we might not feel it. And when it does happen, I think we all play a role in sort of advocating for us, or just pointing out, sometimes not about fighting against it, but more just pointing out the other person's potential explicit bias, so that over time, collectively, we can all eventually not have these at some point. Yeah. And I see that Sally unmuted. Not sure whether you want to add a comment or anything like that.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you, because I also had experience in tech company or fintech company in terms of like as a female being either leadership or either like a normal colleagues to present ideas. I even had experience in terms of like have to fire someone in a period of time. But like to me as a I'm not sure if it's my gender or basically my personality. I just want to see the potential of that colleagues, but still like for culture, like I get kind of a task or yeah, or I would put it like a task to fire someone. So I think it's more of like personality. I want to give the person more chance, but also because of some of the company rules that I need to do something more assertively. but I think it's also a way of growing up, because it's also the chance that I learn how to use some standards and being more assertive, or have a more like a soft way to do such kind of balance. So fire a person, but still give them the chance, but also meet the standard. So I think as a female, or as a personality with more soft way, we can finally find out a path that possibly different from the other aggressive males, but still make it comfortable for people around you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this also nicely lead into the next question, which is about the advantage or benefit of being a female leader or female entrepreneur or female founder. You mentioned a very good point about management, because there's actually some people say that women make better managers because we're both rational and also emotional. So we're very balanced. So that's, that's one interesting observation. And I'm curious, as a female entrepreneur or founder or leader, have you felt that there's actually advantages that come from you because of your identity of being a female? And what are, other than management, what are some of the other examples that you have felt, and how actually the identity of being a woman could even become a leverage or springboard for us in this journey? What about we start with Larissa this time?
Yeah. I just trying to open my microphone. I say I don't know. It's no. I mean, general speaking, I think females are, because in our entire life we're trying to balance a lot of things and taking cares others' emotions, and also females are really patient. I think this is like really huge advantage. Actually, if you got patience, you actually can do a lot of things, and you actually will plan what's the journeys you're actually trying to do. And the other thing is, I think most of females are really work really hard. I mean, whatever you are working or you're doing your own business, because the chance for us is really, in some industry really limited. So I'm trying to do in this scope of work better than the other one. So actually you, because a lot of difficulty, but in that difficult situations, you're trying to train yourself to become the better person. So this is, I think, in the certain age when the females are, wherever you're working or you're doing your own business, you're growing up really fast, and you're trying to touch your limits, and you're no uh, scared about your limits, because there's no the other chance probably going to happen. So you're trying to fight for it. And I also think this is like the really good, I mean, it's kind of like two sides, but it's still like quite good things that you can see yourself is actually really fast growing up in the real limited opportunities when you are doing work. And this is also like the good things. But the bad thing is that, if we have a lot of opportunities, probably we're not going to become in this way. Um, yeah, this is from my first points, I think. About I pass to Sally, so we can have like more conversations.
Cool. I have, yeah, I really want to interrupt here, because I know Larissa is one of the most hardworking female founders I've ever seen. She's so hardworking. I sometimes really admire her in terms of like the work she done and the quality of work she's been doing. And this is like also the point I also want to highlight. I know like there's always good male managers and can be some bad female managers, but hardworking is definitely a key word I see from many females. Larissa is a very good example. Even this time, like when I traveled to Denver, I met a female who is like working on the marketing side of things, marketing and BD. On the way, so there was an event in the morning, 9 o'clock. So on the way we travel from our hotel to that event, she opened like at least 5 pages of notes, and started reviewing all the keywords, key factors, and like all the possible questions that will be asked by the investors. To be honest, I can't imagine that a male would do such thing. It's not a bias, but from my experience, that is something I always see. Females, maybe because of like we don't have such clubbing to do business or get resources quite quickly. I see many females, they're really hardworking, and in terms of like getting things ready and prepared for even a very simple meeting. So and I see like if everything are quite equal to both male and females, there will be definitely more chance that given to females. And this is also very likely to be a trend in the future, at least what I see in the next 10 years, because giving the internet, giving the Web3 gets more equivalent nodes to everyone, it definitely like because females hardworking or females get more concerned about the possible opportunities, female will get more chance to capture these opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting, which is there's two aspects, which is conditional on the chance we're getting, how well we're doing, and another aspect is how much chance we're getting, right? So I think this is a very good point, which is conditional on the chance. What we see is that women are extremely diligent, extremely perseverant, and consistent in making their effort. So that's also what I see in a lot of my female entrepreneur friends is that they're able to hold on to something, an idea, a concept, or ideology for a long time and not give up on that. And no matter what kind of obstacle they come across, they always find some way to overcome it. It's almost amazing to me because it's almost like to them, they're not really is a obstacle or problem or challenge. It's just an issue to solve. Like when they encounter it, they just think about how exactly to get around it and life keeps going, right? So I do feel like there's actually that element of being a woman or kind of characteristics of a woman that really lines up with entrepreneurship a lot. And as we earlier mentioned, also being both rational and emotional, being able to relate, to build rapport with people, and being very sensitive to emotions or the surroundings also makes us a very good team player or manager or leader at the same time. Not extremely inner focused, but really focused on other people, and that's something that's really important in the team as well. So I think these are all really interesting, like essentially inner abilities. And then, as Sally mentioned, there's another interesting point about the chance being more and more equal with Web3, with tech, with some of the industries where gender is less important. For example, in Web3, people can show up as an emoji or profile picture. So nobody knows your gender, and it doesn't really matter. That's one example, and there's a very classic example. So when I was studying in my econ PhD, there was a paper about being a violinist. So there is the Boston Orchestra, which is a U.S. wide or worldwide world class level orchestra, and they've always had only male violinists for some reason. And one year they wanted to do a double blind trial. So instead of the judge seeing who the person is, they will be listening in another room while the person who is auditioning is in the previous room. And the really funny thing is when they did that, they realized the success rate or the rate of passing this exam actually dropped for female. This is very counterintuitive, but what happened was there's the number of female that sign up like literally tripled. So this is a very interesting experiment telling us what's hindering is that when the system is set up in a certain way, maybe female at some point just end up not trying because they know even if they tried, it wouldn't make sense because if when the judge is looking at the person auditioning is really the gender that's affecting the decision, then over time people will realize going there is a waste of time. But changing the infrastructure or the system makes it such that now the chance is equal. So with the equal chance, actually more number of female now are able to at least give it a try. So that's something that I think is extremely interesting because as we, set examples of female entrepreneurs, we essentially are also changing the system, the regime, the whole infrastructure of how tech industry work, of how entrepreneurship work, of how Web3 works, and essentially set precedents so that more female in the future will be more willing to give it a try, and the system also will give more chance to females going into this. So on that, I'm actually curious. So for future female who want to try entrepreneurship, what would your advice be for them? Or if they want to ask you, what's your path leading to where you are today, given you're so successful? What are some of the lessons that you can teach them so that they can replicate, or some of the lessons to avoid, if there is any?
Well, I think that this is kind of like, I think for the first questions is like if you're asking. So, well, I'm not like really successful stylist, but I'm not like I'm still trying. But I think this is like because your backgrounds and the things that you trying to do are so different. So it's really difficult to give advice to somebody, to someone actually want to start their own business. I think whatever is in which gender, once you want to start your own business, you can't actually see the path. You don't know which way you are going to work through, or what's the situation you are going to face. I think the first thing is really difficult to find that what you're actually trying to do, and if this is interesting you, or this is the things that you really want to do. This is really, really difficult. I think I find what I'm trying to do is just in the past, I think 3 years, even I've been go through this journey for a long time, but because we both in overseeing the different culture environments and in the different industry, you actually need to facing a lot different situations. Like, for example, I'm in the creative and culture industry, so actually we have culture identities problems, and we have gender identity problems. The gender identity, I'm not say I'm like a transgender or something. I like say like in the different industries, and you facing a lot of like different stereotypes and all the things like that. And also we're born in China, and we have our own cultures, and you're working for the creative industry the most, um, like um, like actually leading by the Western cultures, and what's your standpoints are. This is all the problem that you are going to face actually. So it's for me. So the first thing I'm doing, like what I'm trying to do, is really important. And from my journey, I think because I'm studying fine arts, and then I got my master degrees in creative and cultural studies, because for the students who actually trying to be an artist, or you actually doing a lot of projects during your university or high school, it's actually know the company, or like I'm doing entrepreneurship in the project. Is actually every project individual, and every project is actually kind of like the individual company, or the things that you're running from the beginning. So when I start my own business, I never thinking this is like the hardest way to do, because I used to doing this. And then for the other people, probably they working for the other companies, or they thinking like, okay, I found there's some gap, or there's some tools that can be in the industry can be improved, and there's no the same product actually happened. So I'm going to create. So this I think is kind of the different perspective about start the journey of doing your own business. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's really interesting.
very good story from Larissa. I have quite similar experience as you in terms of finding the passion, or finding the area I want to do. It is also pretty much like from last 2-3 years, especially during the COVID and loads of things happening. I have a period time still feel a bit nervous, worried about future, and don't know what I want to do. But also throughout that process, I tried on different things and also become one of manager role in my previous company, leading kind of 20 people, working on different stuffs. And then I start to think about things more, like in terms of the freedom on locations, freedom on time, and like freedom on different areas. So become more passionate or become clear on the item that I will be doing in the future. So it's pretty much built up in the last 2-3 years, not something happened immediately. But when it comes to like why I feel like more fearless being an entrepreneur, doing some enterprise, I would say it's like a long journey. So as Larissa, she got different projects in her artwork. When I was in the uni, I went to some different organizations, which is more like business oriented. So one is Student in Free Enterprise. It's quite old name. Now the name is called Interactors. So it's literally a student doing business projects to support some, I would say, some people in need, but also in a business way. I think through that kind of experience, I at least build up the mindset that at least apart from like doing some jobs, but you can also doing some business yourself and also get some idea on, for example, organization structure, how to do business, how to do communications, deal with different business people. And then I think another important thing is to I still feel like it would be good after graduates you still do some work in some companies, either big companies or small companies. So big companies bring me the experience in terms of doing things in a more systematic way and see like what a good platform can be look like and consider things more than business only, but also kind of some social entrepreneurships. So that's one part when I in the large company. When I come to a smaller one, I think also give me loads of benefits in terms of doing things end to end. So understand about business end to end, understand for example design a project end to end, and also in terms of management of a team, literally doing everything in a smaller business. So those kind of experience after I building up on a daily basis, I will have more confidence in that if I'm doing a new go on new journey, what kind of problem I can encounter and the strength that I can solve those problems. So this part I think is even more than I get some like funding from either parents or some investors, but also like from myself internally. I know if I face any issues, I have the capability to solve them and lead a team to move on the journey that we are trying to go. So I think building up those kind of experiences is quite important. And then moving on would be like all the other things, like the passion on the industry. I know like there's loads of project in Web3. People just want to earn some money out of it and like do some stuff in short term. But to me, I think and also some of my friends, I just feel like this is something we really have passion on. This is something we really want to do, even without all this kind of other voices. We still want to keep going on, and especially currently it's bear market and different things happening every day. Like today, we get some other news on the bankings, but like regardless all these kind of noises, we still have this passion on the things we are doing, and this is I think also one of the important thing to start up a business.
Yeah, I think these are extremely helpful advice. Hopefully, we can record this or even play it back to some future female entrepreneurs who want to go on the path. I think one thing that I heard are consistent is actually starting from smaller projects and getting used to this idea of entrepreneurship or starting something. So as Larissa said, starting different arts projects, kind of like doing startups already to some extent, because it's all building something from scratch and it's takes creative thinking but also execution. For me, I have similar experience. So I was a PhD in economics, and every paper essentially is like a startup project because you need to first have, find ideas that are both concrete enough, but also not so repetitive that it's already been done. So it's a fine balance. And also find co-authors, which are like co-founders, to execute together. So you need to sort of, know how to work with people. You also need to resolve conflict but you also need to be assertive enough so that your ideas get incorporated. And at the same time, you need to find resources. So like funding to buy data or other type of resources to support your project. So it's very similar to fundraising in startup. And then you need to execute. And then in the process of execution, things always change. So usually the first idea is never the actual idea that you work on a paper. Like in the process, you pivot because you'll figure out that something doesn't work for various reasons, but then you will find a way to make it work. So with that, I sort of get training of how this whole entrepreneurship process work, even though it's not real entrepreneurship. So it's actually a very, very good training. Getting used to it in a low stake environment, because when you're starting an actual startup, the stake is very high, right? It's real money, it's real employees, and it's real, for example, investors. So that's something I would recommend people to do if they really think entrepreneurship is something they're interested in. So starting with, say, school projects, or could be papers or other types of side projects, just try getting things, started, getting things done. So, and as Sally said, in the process, there's a lot of different aspects that are all very important. And I really resonate with the point about passion, because I feel like if you're doing entrepreneurship for external factors like money or fame, it never lasts you very long. It has to be the thing itself that's intrinsically motivating you. It has to be you wanting to solve exactly that problem, and enough that you're willing to sacrifice a lot, for example, your time for other things, or other career path, or potentially earning a low wage for a long time, and potential failing and things like that in order to make it work. So you have to be intrinsically motivated by the problem itself and solving the problem to really last you a long time. So that's just one of the small aspects from what Sally said, and I also resonate with all of the other ones. And so we only have like about 8 minutes left, and there is a cliche question that people always ask, which is, being an entrepreneur, it means sacrificing a lot. It can be time with friends, or it can be doing other of your hobbies, but it can also be family. This is also the reason why VCs ask me that question, which is, are you going to have kids anytime soon? Even though, we really hate that question or being asked that question, it's something that we all face at some level. So I'm kind of curious, what's your plan for that? Just from a friend perspective, because I also face that problem, because biologically, for male, their fertile life is much longer than we are. There are also different technologies that help extending that, only to a certain extent, and are sometimes also expensive. So I'm curious, how are you balancing this choice between devoting my life or all of my time into a startup, because the startup itself is like a baby, versus my role as a mom, or wife, or role in the family?
Yeah, Sally's smiling because Sally knows my stories about. so actually, I divorced last year, and but it's not because I'm doing the startups or something else. It's just the relationship problem. But the thing is, I think you need to do something that you really want to do for your startups. Then there's no problem between what you actually sacrifice your hobbies, or your sacrifice your interest, because the things that I'm doing is I'm really interested about, and this is what the habit, if I'm not doing the business, and this is the things that I want to put my entire lifetime to do it. It's whatever is succeed or not, but creating things make me really exciting. And I know when I'm doing the creative and stuff, my brand is actually really working. So that's is like the most valuable things that's doing my own business. And I think for friends, like Sally and I, we actually the friends for a long time. And there's so you when you are actually doing things that you like, and whatever you're in industry, when you meet your people, you meet your friends, and we always chat about work, but it's not like boring stuff. We actually chat really interesting things and exchange ideas and all the things. I speaking back for the family, I think there's no longer my options anymore from my from um from my life journey later on, because I've already been through there, and I know how like long-term relationship or you're dealing with somebody when you both are entrepreneur, it's really hard, and I'm not going to give up my entrepreneurship in the past. So I think there's no longer option for me, but I'm not sure about Sally. Actually, we never talked about this actually
Yeah, we
before.
haven't talked about that much. We should have another session.
Yeah.
About
I think so.
yeah. Yeah, I think firstly, I totally agree with Larissa. Like, I don't think it sacrifices my hobby or everything at least, because the thing I'm doing itself is my hobby. I so much enjoy it, and very exciting thing is like before I jump into Web3, I work in the traditional industry, and most of my friends they are pretty much with same journey as me, from like university in tech or fintech, and then going to the banking industry. But I sometimes feel like, especially when I'm in London, like more friends come back to China, so my friend circle is like quite limited. Only after I enter into the area I'm really excited about, say Web3, I meet more people, more friends, and they are sharing the same idea or share same hobby as I. So from my side, I meet more people that I really share the same hobby with. So this is something I'm really excited about, because I'm doing exactly the thing I like to do. Meet the people, share the same idea, even like better to be honest than when I was in traditional industry. So all of these things make me fascinating about the things like I'm doing now. And when it comes to family, um, yeah, so I think this is also in terms of, I think if I got some kids, then it may take me more time, but things is not in my plan. Maybe it's a good answer for the investors, but not my plan yet. And in terms of my partners or my parents, they are quite supportive to me, or I will at least find someone supportive. Otherwise, I will say bye to them. So basically, I think this is also the trend when I speak with my community. I get very, as I mentioned, like 80% of them are females. I see this is a trend that female are taking more care of themselves than ever, and taking care about their career and their future, because relying on a specific person or specific so-called family is not like a sustainable journey, especially nowadays. It will be more important to build a skill set, build up their career paths. Um, that will be something make a female more independent and become less reliable to their families. But also when it comes to responsibility, since female can get their own kind of revenue income or their revenue, it's a good way to support the financial to their family. And also I don't see it is too much conflicts in between family and their work. Actually, especially choosing being an entrepreneur, it's a better. To me, it's like a better way to have more balance. I can stay longer time with my family. I can like location wise, and I can also provide kind of more resources and financial support to my family. This is like I see there's more balance when I'm going through this path.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. And one thing that I like very much resonate with is the fact that we shouldn't be looking at family or career or other things as, opposed to each other, right? Because, if you do that, then very quickly you end up doing, only one thing in your life, and that's whether or not that's entrepreneurship, that's not sustainable. I think one very interesting aspect is if I look at my family life, it's also kind of like a co-author or co-founder relationship, because when I'm building my startup, I didn't do it alone. I have two co-founders. Then why can't I look at family life this way, right? Because for example, my partner or my parents, they're all my co-founders to some extent on this aspect, and it's also in itself a small project. Like building a family is like building a startup. it's kind of like you're already juggling two things at the same time. And on other side, utilizing your co-founder or a team of talents, being able to outsource are very important. So instead of thinking about, oh, I need to have kids and this is going to take away my time from, career, think of it as, it's as if I'm having a new business line in Robinland. And how am I going to have sufficient, labor on that and talent on that? And that's something I consistently heard from some of my female friends as well, is that if they have very supportive family, and if they have very good relationship with their family, whether it's their partner or their parents, then the journey of having a kid wasn't that, daunting at all. But then for people who had what's called like 丧偶式带娃, which means you're raising a kid as if your husband is dead, quote unquote, then it was a much less pleasant experience. So I think this is a very interesting aspect to look at things. And all of a sudden, family and startup or any other of your career work are not opposing each other anymore. So that's, with that, this actually is, our today's session. But last but not least, I do want to give time for each of you to, tell us a little bit about what you're building and one thing you want our audience to know, like an action item. So for example, if you're hosting an event recently, or there's a new product release, or there's something, a very exciting feature that you're launching very soon, one thing that you want the audience to know, this is the time. All right. What about Larissa?
I think the recent project that I'm doing is actually Sally introduced me to domestic violence organizations, which is focusing on the Asian female community, and I'm actually doing the rebranding and to restructure all the organizations currently, and trying to helping more females in Asian backgrounds who are actually facing domestic violence, and generally in entire world. Maybe my research is not done perfect yet, but for like in mainland of China, we don't actually have that organizations actually being well designed and will speak out their own voice with really strong cultures and like throughout the design products. And also the other projects that I'm really excited about is we actually rebranding for and transgenders underwear brands, which is the really the new industry I recently knowing about. And this is also we're helping the next generations transgenders who have the culture and gender identity problems, mainly for the kids, and they will have the better environments and the better communities and throughout the products and throughout the design. I think this is the two charity projects that we're working on. That's really exciting about. For me. And then the other is all like the business stuff, so I'm not going to introduce more.
Yeah, I would also introduce the soft parts of the thing we are building. So we do see some kind of requirements for Web 2 users or people who are excited about Web 3. I think pretty much this month or early next month, we are going to launch some learning courses that support Web 2 users to learn more about Web 3. It should be for free or even have some bonus after learning. We will introduce about all these kind of launching events in my account. On Twitter should be SallyGo 222. More details will be followed, because we're trying to also give more chances for any Web 2 users who are interested about Web 3 or what is Web 3, bridge Web 2 users to Web 3, and give people more chance to explore on the Web 3 area. And this time is should be totally for free. This is something we are going to launch end of this quarter or early next quarter. So yeah, I will do the updates in my Twitter.
Yeah, thanks so much. And for us, for Robinland, we are actually having quite a lot of open opportunities for people to invest in. So as I mentioned earlier, what we're trying to do is to actually provide a way for people to access fixed passive income in a very calmless or chill fashion. This means that it's high quality real estate debt that otherwise are bought by Blackstone, BlackRock type. And now we actually have access to them, and we're able to tokenize it using blockchain so that you can buy a small fraction of it and you can earn 8% per year without really worrying about anything. And because it's on chain, all of the transactions are both legal and transparent, and it's immutable. And whether or not you're in the US or anywhere in the world, because it's blockchain, you can all buy it using USDC or USDT. So if you go to app.robinland.io/open-opportunities, you will see a lot of them, and very easy to get in contact with us if you follow our Twitter or other social media. And all right, so this is one of our events, and we have a lot of the past ones and also more future ones coming. So if you're interested, do stay tuned on our Twitter and YouTube. Thanks so much for coming, Larissa and Sally. Today we had a really exciting discussion, and I learned a lot from both of you. And I really do want to stay in touch, because I think we really should have a circle like this, female entrepreneurs, and chat more often about different learnings, hardship, or advantages that we have. All right, thanks a lot for coming.
Thanks, Larissa.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
See you soon.
bye. Bye.
Have a good night.
See you. Bye.
Bye.